And I am going to skip the videos, or I'm going to skip the videos to start and come back to them. And then I got good videos today that are, I find it interesting. Y'all might find it boring, but it's on the bubonic plague. Economic effects of the Crusades. The Crusades stimulated trade by introducing Europeans to many desirable products. Trade promoted frequent contacts with the Byzantine and Muslim empires. New economic institutions developed. Okay. The Crusades actually kind of helped push people out of feudal sort of obligations, feudal society. Economic effects of the Crusades: an increased demand for Middle Eastern products as a result of the Crusades, stimulated production of goods for trade in Middle Eastern markets, and a new sort of thing that emerged: credit and banking. Credit and banking had existed, but you know, I'm sure back then people were reluctant to trust places like banks and things like that, but business owners and people like that started to use what we call letters of credit. So letters of credit is kind of similar to a checking account. You know, you have the money in the bank, you write the check, letter of credit, etc. Very similar to like what you have with credit cards and things of that nature today. So the church had a rule against what we call usury. Usury is simply the charging of interest on loans. So church didn't like the idea that people, let's say that you got a loan from someone, anyone, and you charge them 10% interest on it, which means if they borrowed 100, in theory, it's different now, but in theory, they would pay you back 110. You know, that's why banks loan money, because they charge interest on it. Well, the church had this strict rule against that. And, you know, businessmen sort of were like, we don't like this rule, and it helped secularize or pull banks away from the church. Okay, businessmen and people like that were like, we don't like this rule because we want to make what? We want to make money. Okay, so you know, the church rule against usury and the bank's practice of charging interest helped secularize northern Italy and pull it away from the church, and it's eventually going to lead to the the Renaissance and things like that. New accounting and bookkeeping practices and the use of Arabic numerals. All right, here we have, if you look on your sheet, it says, who are the most educated people in Europe at this time? It's going to be your church scholars. Your church scholars. They were the few who could read and write. They worked in monasteries. Okay. Now, what were some of the effects? The three at the bottom are what you're going to find as effects. They translated Greek and Arabic works into Latin, made new knowledge in philosophy, medicine, and science available in Europe. And one of the big effects is that they laid the foundation for what would become your university system. Okay. And if you're going to go to college or, some type of, school, other than technical colleges and stuff like that, you have universities like Averett, Radford is a university, higher levels of learning in those institutions. You said like the last three? Yeah, last three. Or you can just do made new knowledge in philosophy, medicine, etc., and laid the foundation for the rise of universities. Those are the two important ones. They're talking about the Renaissance. And your Renaissance artists were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael. What? Oh, yeah, Raphael. You don't have to even, well, you don't have to know that one. All right, y'all got that? All right.
It popped up from kind of helping kids things, like the race.
You haven't like texted your parents and let them know what's going on? You think your parents going to be happy? All right. All right, so the other questions on your sheet. What disease spread from Central Asia into Southern Europe and then into Northern Europe, devastating the population? This is the Black Death, and you want to write also known as the bubonic or Black Plague. All right, and then it says, what were the effects? There you see the effects, the impact of the Black Death, population decline. Now, we are living in the middle of what I guess a lot of people consider a pandemic. The Black Plague is a pandemic, okay? Was it on a global scale? Well, you know, Europe and Asia were pretty much, I guess what you would say, maybe 60% of the population of the earth during that time. I guess you could say it was a global pandemic. In this case that we have today, and look, I don't want to discount COVID-19 and say it's not, you know, deadly or whatever, but to compare it to this, I see a lot of people that compare it to this. So, you know, COVID usually kills about, you know, maybe 1 out of 99 people. Probably less than that, less than 1. But even if we just say it's 1, the bubonic plague would kill 33 out of 100 people. Okay, so 33 people would die from bubonic plague.
When are we going to do the Middle Ages thing?
What's that?
The Middle Ages, when are we going to do that?
What are we talking about?
Oh, the Middle Ages quiz.
Yeah, we're going to do that after this. Right? Just relax. We're having fun, right? 1/3 of Europe, or you know, when you talk about, like, I think the other day they said there was 200,000 deaths in the United States. Now that sounds really bad, but if you consider the fact that there's like how many people that live here, close to 400 million people, the number doesn't seem as bad. And when you compare it to this, I want you to think about it. 1/3, or, you know, 30 million people died. Okay. Now, if you put that in perspective, and you can even do the math, can you do the math in your head? Well, 1/3, okay, 30 million people is you're going to have a result of like 90 million people. So 90 million people, you take away 1/3, you got that 30 million. Compared to what the numbers we see, it's not even comparable. Okay, this is far, far worse. One of the, I guess, almost the good thing about it is you had a scarcity of labor, so it ended feudal obligations, and people moved out of that feudal sort of system. Scarcity of labor. It's one of the weird things about this one too. So, I mean, how are people going to work when we're out of school, if they got little kids, they're gonna have to stay home with their kid. Daycare is gonna be tough. All the things that are tough anyway are gonna be compounded. But in this case, people were dead and you had no one to work on the farm, the manor, or anything. So, people were just like, well, nobody do any work. So it really did sort of, slow things down as far as, you saw the increase of trade from the Crusades, and now it's kind of like, uh-oh, here we got this bubonic plague that's killing lots of people, all right? Church influence is going to decline. Trade was disrupted because there wasn't anybody doing any trading, okay? So your effect is all this right here, the impact. That's what you put for the effect of the bubonic plague, okay? That was the effect. I do want you to look at that picture up there, because the little picture on the right-hand, lower right-hand side is a what? Do y'all know what that little thing is right there? That is a flea.
That's what I'm.
Fleas from rats are the whole reason the bubonic plague hit Europe so hard. One of the videos is good at telling you. So let's say, heaven forbid, you have a family member who has the bubonic plague. They got fleas from rats on them, right? Got fleas on their clothes. After that person dies, they burn their body, they take their clothes and sell them. So the fleas that are on there are being passed from people to people. And remember, what? Well, remember, when this, and the videos are good at telling you, they had no idea what was happening. They were like, why is this happening? And what did they usually back then? People more superstitious. What did they blame? The bad, well, God is punishing us. Evil forces are hitting us. We're doing something wrong. They believe smells, caused it. So they would put these, if you ever see the plague doctors, they put all these sweet smelling things in the beak of the thing to prevent the plague. But, bacteria they couldn't see because they had no microscope. So yeah, it was difficult for them. They were kind of like, what is causing this? What are we doing wrong? And in society back then, a lot of it was, well, we're sinners. So one of the videos talks about how a woman was like, hey, don't pray to God not to kill all the sinners this way. But little kids who would get it, the priests were like, the reason your kid has bubonic plague is because they're bad. Bad kids get it. Just all sorts of crazy sort of things. The reality, it was rats and fleas that caused the bubonic plague. Okay. I am going to stop recording and go back so we can watch the videos. The reason I cannot record the videos for anyone who watches this later is simply because of copyright. It won't let me put it on YouTube. But anyway.